ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad that we're doing this, and we're starting and we're doing another day. It's so nice to kind of look forward to these talks. Hi, Karen. Hi, Janice. Hi, Karen. So, Ashley, I'm going to be seeing people's comments and questions, and I'll just tell you what they are.
Totally fine. That sounds good.
Alyssa, hi, my darling. What's happening is today's like maybe the 4th or 5th day that I've been doing this, and it's really been fun. People seem to be really looking forward to it, which is really nice. And I have all kinds of interesting guests on. That's the biggest problem. I know a million people, so you know, it could be endless. I could be doing this forever. Maybe I just won't go out of the house anymore. So today, my guest, Cecily's on, and
Aww.
Janice Anderson too.
Very nice.
Today I have one of my dear friends and cohorts, Miss Ashley Maher.
Maher rhymes with star.
Apparently I can't, I still don't know how to pronounce your name, which is a little weird.
Actually, I think Bill Maher has the same last name.
Okay. Right? Thank you for telling
Bill
me
Maher.
that. I'll never forget it.
And he pronounces it Maher, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Bill Maher, so there we go.
Yeah. So Ashley is sharing this apparently it's been turning out to be 2 hours long. So wow. the first hour, 12 to 1, is Ashley, and the second hour is Rhiannon, which is actually how we met. Rhiannon was giving a workshop in Los Angeles, and Ashley and I and Cecily and Emile and a bunch of other people were at this workshop at the Blue Whale. And so we met, we were in the workshop, and then, well, actually, I think it was Ashley and Cecily and Emile said, hey, we should continue doing this because it's so cool. And then a group of us got together and formed our vocal improv a cappella group. And we went through a few personnel changes and ended up with, well, now we have 7. We were 6 for a while. And we're called Fish to Birds. Some of you know our group. And so we're a cappella, and we create something out of nothing. And we've been together 7 years or something. And we have a great time. And it's a really interesting relationship that we all have. We love each other, and we trust each other, and we make really fun music together. We have a site, fishtobirds.com, but it might be difficult to show on this because it's of all the different latencies, you know. But you can see us online and on our site and YouTube, and we really have a good time. However, having said that, each one of us has our own separate career path, and Ashley's career path has been a long one, and incredible, actually. I'm going to have her talk a little bit about it, but she's just kind of a broad general introduction of Ashley is she's had major record label contracts. She's toured the world. She's lived in Africa and England, and she couldn't tell you where else she's lived. And she's very connected to Africa, and she's made great records there, and she's an African dancer, and she teaches improvisation, and we call her the diva because that's what she wants. That's what she wants us to call her. Okay.
I'm not hiding anything yet.
Over to you. I'll let you take over because I've been just blabbing about you, but which is nice, you know, don't you think? Whoops. Sorry.
Oh,
Wait a minute. Hold on one there. I did something weird. Ah, come on over. Here's my face. Come on. Sorry. Hold on. I mean, you could talk, but still, here we go. There. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking for the purposes of this, which is kind of a gathering place for like-minded creatives. We're all in our various corners, facing this thing. I'm thinking, kind of what's the most valuable way we can use this time. And as a super brief introduction for myself, which you've already kind of introduced myself, I am just this weird mix of all kinds of different influences. And when I'm teaching at LA College of Music and I see the young students there who, their path is so narrow, they think, I've got to make it in the pop field. I look back at the story of my own creative life, like you probably do too, and just see the intricate, weird twists and turns that your creative life makes. So yes, my own started when I graduated from university. I went to London. I was already in love with African music. I thought that I was going to be I was a finalist for the Rhodes Scholarship to go to Oxford. And then when I got to the finals and did not earn I didn't earn the right to go, like I didn't win. That night driving home from LA, I was devastated. But then I thought, gosh, this is my chance. Like I've done my ivory tower climbing, and now's my time to just go to London. Like I've got my summa cum laudes and done really well at school, but my real love is this music, and why don't I just throw caution to the winds and go? So London was 12 years of just deep immersion into what was at the time really an international African scene, because CDs were allowing record labels to have so much money available to sign artists. I was signed along with just a mountain of music from all over the world. London was incredible. Every week I would see bands on stage from Sierra Leone, from Côte d'Ivoire, from Cameroon, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, South Africa, Zanzibar, you name it, they were all on stage, and I was just at the front like, yes! Meanwhile, I was also studying with dance teachers because I saw that dance and music was so intertwined, and had a real love for the dance as well, and was signed to Virgin Records and la-di-la. Like at the same time, life was intertwining with everything. I was pregnant with my son when I was recording my second album for Virgin Records, and then a couple of years after that, I left the label because EMI bought the company, and all the younger artists were dropped because by now the market had kind of contracted. And at the time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer here, so I came over to LA and have really been making my way as an independent artist ever since. So that's really meant, carrying on with all of my African dance and music research, as well as continuing to constantly look for opportunities to record with great musicians who are all pretty much familiar to you here in LA, and start building on getting back and forth to Senegal, which as time went on became my keen focus. So my last 3 albums were recorded in, my fifth album was partly recorded in Senegal with Youssou musicians. My 6th and 7th were fully recorded in Dakar. And, at the same time, I'm raising my kids and, working, and, just now, this last week, with everything shutting down, I had 6 jobs that just vanished overnight. I was doing blackboard art in restaurants. I was serving. I was teaching at LA College of Music. I was teaching children in the inner city music for Dreamer World Education, and then I was performing either acoustic or with Fish to Birds, and also raising funds to go back to Senegal because I've got a couple of shows to do, which now, of course, have been canceled. But it's the creative life really is just this constant unfolding, and I feel so grateful for all of the weird experiences I've had. It's really been an unusual path. And yet just such a rich one. So that's where I'll stop for now. Myself forever.
See what I mean? That's why she's a diva, man. She's had the most interesting life, and she knows what she's had, you know, which a lot of people, I think, maybe don't carry it. I think that's how I think of you as a diva, because you carry it, you know?
Oh, like, you know.
You own it.
Yeah. I got this. Well, the thing is, you know, I think the diva thing, there's a little tongue-in-cheek humor about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, who was it I saw the other day? Jack Black was talking about someone. Jack Black was talking about Kanye West and said, you know, Kanye, I love Kanye. You know, he's super talented, and you know, he's kind of like us. He believes he's the greatest in the world. The only difference is there's a certain degree of humor in our Tenacious D. We're the greatest. You know, and I think he might really believe it. You know, so you know, so my divitude, like I think in some ways, again, I see it reflected in these young students I'm teaching. You know, we carry with us so much self-doubt, and you know, everyone I work with from a teaching standpoint, you know, and you may find this too, but I just feel like one of the key, most important obstacles to get over is just people's thinking, people's self-blockages, their self-esteem, their moments of like, I can't, or what if I look bad, or what if that's not that good. And to really find exercises, and you probably have the same thing too, that release people from that, or at least try to bypass that brain thing that gets in the way, is so liberating. And for me, I think I feel like if I'm a diva, it's really, I'm just all of you. Like, you are me, I am you, we are all the same. And any moment that we connect to our creative selves, it's the moment that I think we're connecting to our divinity, which we all carry. So it's like, I think me walking around with Global Diva as like my name tag is kind of saying, you know, you have the right to own that in yourself too. It's like a universal birthright, I think, for anyone who has a creative impulse.
Yeah, you know, that's a great subject, and you guys listening can definitely add into this, make comments and ask questions. But that, I mean, I've always thought, you know, when I teach workshops especially, I always say, okay, half of this is all the musical information that we can get together, and half of it is philosophy. Because if you don't have your head in the right spot, you could be the greatest artist in the world and never express it. Or, I mean, there's so many books about this, and, you know, you turned me on to Big Magic by, what's her name?
Elizabeth Gilbert. Such a great book. Oh my gosh.
The woman who wrote Eat, Pray, and Love. What a great book. You know, it gives you, reminds you that it gives you permission to be creative, anybody, you know, and just have it, you know, commit to it and have it and own it, you know, and do it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, and talk about diva, you are the queen of doing it, Cathy Segal-Garcia. Your barrage of emails every week. Guess what I'm doing now? Guess what's coming up? You know what we have on the horizon? Let me tell you what we have 3 months from now on the horizon. You should have Just Do It, just tattoos on your right or left arm. You know? Oh my gosh.
Well, that's, you know what's funny about that is, of course, I have my own things that I don't just do, right? You know, I don't confront, things are laying around for, you know, 3 years, you know, hi, remember me? And, but the thing is, there's some things, some ways of operating that I've had since I was young, and I just continue doing it. Like, you know, oh, okay, there's a whole, oh, hey, that's an interesting project. Okay, let's do it. And, I've never been one for people saying you can't do this. You know, that
you don't say.
But that's always turned me off. You know, it's like, screw you. You know, I can do whatever I want. You know, it's just you just put your attention on it and do it and want to do it and move forward. But like you said, the idea of not feeling like you're gonna, you know, you're afraid to be wrong, or you're made to be wrong, or if do you care how many people think you're wrong? All of that, you know.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting. I was just watching this video earlier today that was talking about how, you know, the whole concept that this particular time, this COVID-19 quarantine moment, it really is this opportunity for us to stop and take stock, reboot, and just like you know, a caterpillar goes into a cocoon and kind of deconstructs. It doesn't grow wings, but it becomes almost a liquid before it reconstructs into a new like into a butterfly. I think it's like in this period of time that the most important responsibility we have is just to get grounded and calm and be really open. Like I've been making a point of being in nature, like at least just an hour a day, just to get away from all the news cycle, but also to have a moment where I just, it's like you remember those old, the television antennas where you pull them out, like, you know, I'm like pulling out all my antennas and just putting them out to the universe, or my cat whiskers, like what are they going to pick up today? But it only comes when you're in a place of trust and faith and not in a place of fear. So it's hard to download some of that universal information when we're stressed out because the person in line in the post office is a little too close. But you know, as you're saying, when we're in that space of just, you see it and then you allow it to happen, or you allow it to come in. I think that's what we're trying to access right now. And
Yeah.
as I say, you're someone who's always have your antenna out. Like, oh, there's a club down at Olac that's open, empty. Let me fill it with great music for a year. You know, it's just you dive on every opportunity. It's really, I so admire you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I'm just reading a few of the comments. They're basically just saying hello.
No one's just saying how amazing I am, or how amazing I am.
Well, yes, Mon David said 2 of LA's life, love, heart, and music divas.
Nice. Thank you.
But Mon would say that because he's also in Fish to Birds with us. So,
yes,
you know.
Yeah, it's a love fest all the time.
So, let's see. Songwriting. How about, we haven't talked about that yet in this little series. What about songwriting?
Songwriting.
Yeah, because you are a prolific writer, and you've been compared to Joni Mitchell in your style, you know, in your poetic style and musing about life and where you've been. Do you write every day? Do you force yourself to write?
You know, that's so interesting because I was thinking about this. I was thinking about that this morning because it's like in this time, like I saw this snippet of Miles Davis saying, like, yes, when I wake up in the morning, I just think about music. When I go to bed at night, I'm thinking about music. Music is just in my, like Jacob Collier, like just wake up, breathe, eat, sleep, music. And really, I'm kind of honestly not like that. I actually rarely play music except for in the car, but like at home, like it's just the joy of silence, you know. But songwriting for me, it's almost like again, it kind of comes in these waves. There's a time when it's just like, okay, I'm ready to write new material, and there's a certain kind of ambiance, set of things that I kind of put into place, and then the song builds itself. There's always still those nerves of like, you know, the blank page. I don't think that ever really goes away. But I think one of my favorite things to do is how can I say it? It's kind of like when you take a little piece of a plant, like a little tiny seedling of it, and then you go and plant it in other soil. Because the general theme of my whole creative life has been building this bridge between African music and Western music. And again, in a way it's actually, it's actually very subtle and harder than it sounds. Like when just as kind of a segue, or what it's called, like a detour.
Mm-hmm.
When I was living in London, there was a place called the National Sound Archives, and I used to go every week. It was this little small archival library of music from all over the world. This was before iTunes and everything, but you'd go and you do your research, and I'd submit a list of music that I wanted to listen to, and then I would go in the next week and sit in a booth with some headphones, and there's a little phone, and I'd say, yes, I'd like to listen to this now, and you'd hear a British voice say like, all right, got that coming right up, like a jukebox, and then they'd play it, and then the next thing, and the next. And I listened to these ethnomusicological pieces of music from all over Africa for like a year. Every week I would listen to hours and hours and hours of everything, from like a child's game to ceremonies to big shows to famous artists and I was as interested in that as I was also interested in any Westerners that were attempting to kind of bridge African music and Western. So I listened to artists, I won't name them, but some who are more successful than others in writing Western music over African. And sometimes it's just this kind of awkward shoved together thing that didn't fuse or didn't feel kind of organic or authentic. And then other times they would find this magical place where the best of the two languages would meet. Like, and I would say Paul Simon's Rhythm of the Saints album, I would almost say like did a more integrated job of that than the Graceland one, even though Graceland had some brilliant moments too. But there was, and then from the African side, the Africans who were finding ways to really like bridge to the West too were, they were like Salif Keita and Youssou and Baba Mal, Fela Kuti in his own way, who loved James Brown, and there's this kind of like mixed but organic like thing of it. So over the years, when if I ever hear something that's like just a snippet of something that's really just some unusual rhythmic relationship or a series of notes that just is just so like catnip, it's so cool, I'll take that, and that might become like the seedling for a whole different song. Like if I can deconstruct it and then put it back together in a way that kind of that makes sense according to the Western song language, and then build from there, it's just really interesting to see what comes up. And I used to spend a lot of times writing full like poetry, like people have books and books and books of just letters, like music you've written down, or words that you've written down, just words and lyrics and ideas. But I now tend to have the music itself, just the words come out of it. It's like it's a different thing now. So like the rhythm or some musical thing will then build into just like an idea, and I won't even know where the song's going. Like I'll start, and then there'll be a next section, and then next section, and then put it back together. I'm always trying to keep it simple enough so it's not just like a balloon with a hole in it going in circles. No, it's kind of all over the place. There's a certain structure, but yeah, my songwriting in some ways feels like it just comes out of the ground like a plant now. It's weird. It's
that's
really
cool. Yeah, that's it's interesting to hear about different people's approaches to writing. And of course, we know that like anything, especially creative, it kind of comes in almost like a series of stuff. I remember when I wrote, there was a few years ago, I was writing some songs about my sisters, and there were several songs. They were kind of folky, and they totally felt like I was a painter painting a little series, and
Right.
and it was easy. They just came up, and words and music came together. Lately, I've been trying to write with some rhythmic, more rhythmic things, because I do tend to write, ballads and waltzes and that kind of thing. So.
Right.
But the problem, I won't call it a problem. I really shouldn't call it a problem.
The opportunity.
what happens is I'll write something, I'll get a really good idea, and I'll write it down rhythmically, and then I'm like, okay, that's all I have to say right now, and I go away, and then the next day I come back, and it's hard to get back there. That doesn't always happen. I can start a song and continue on it day after day. That sometimes that really happens too. And I've also been writing some lyrics to one of Admara Ruiz's songs that I just love. That song, "And Then She Smiles," about his daughter. So beautiful. And so sometimes I write lyrics, and I've written for like Pat Metheny songs and Vince Mendoza and John Abercrombie. And sometimes I will write the lyrics first. I tend to have ideas about the lyrics, and then the melody comes forth with the lyrics, and then I go on my way. But yeah, I don't know if any of you out there are songwriters, and if you have any interesting little comments about that, or questions about, well, I see Claudia Koval has joined, and she's a prolific songwriter. Claudia, if you're listening still, you might have a word or two to say about songwriting as well. Let's see. So what else can we start on chatting? Well, I know that you have a class on, I don't know if you're calling it circle singing, because I haven't attended the class yet, which I want to. Alvin Reyes is on, by the way. Alvin. But so are you calling it circle singing? Oh, one question by Karen McCants. Yeah, when you're writing it, the melody and lyrics and chords and groove, they all come at different times. That's what I was just saying. Sometimes you get into this little habit of a series almost, and you're writing lyrics first, or sometimes you'll wake up and you'll feel a melody, or so the important thing to do is not stop yourself.
Right.
One year, you could probably relate to this, Ashley, but one year I was I started writing all these folky tunes, and while I was writing them, I was very dissatisfied. I thought, this isn't jazzy, I would never sing this. So I actually stopped writing for a year because I didn't allow it to come through. And then I realized that, and I just said, what do I care? I can throw it away. I could give it to somebody, whatever. Just open that door and let it through, And then
there's also kind of a discipline in just showing up. There's sometimes, as you say, like you have those songs that just arrive, like they just sort of come through you, almost like the universe is like, okay, I'll just give you like a just dollop of gold, through the pipeline. But then a lot of times, you find yourself just struggling and scratching and like just grinding through a song that, at the end it all just sounds so wooden and forced, and like all the nails are in the wrong place, and it's just kind of so awkward. But you kind of have to be doing that to keep the wheels turning, so that the day that something does arrive, the wheels are already in motion, because it's hard to just go from zero to nothing, for that. And yeah, just being open. And it's like, I remember Chris Rock saying, he said in the mornings he used to have breakfast with his family and kiss his wife goodbye and say, like, okay, I'm gonna go off and write shit for the next 4 hours, because he would just go together with his guy and just churn out a ton of stuff. And the real art was in the sifting through, in looking for gold nuggets, in editing, in boiling it down to something that was really extraordinary. But he said that the actual initial creative process, there's just so many kind of mundane, mediocre ideas that are coming out. You need to you just need to get the ball rolling somehow. That's
so true. And right now is a perfect time to start that. You take an hour and go into the other room and just, do that, that 20-minute writing thing that, artist way. Just
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. I feel so stupid writing this, blah, 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 whatever. And then, like Ashley says, editing. I mean, people always talk about editing, you know, going back and sifting through. Claudia did say two things. For me, the lyrics come first, and from a deep place inside, very rarely the music also comes to me. I love to collaborate. Any ideas on how to find the perfect match? Also, I don't write to a specific genre. I let my lyrics determine the style. I find that to be quite a free approach to not limiting what my feelings are telling me. That's good. Any ideas on how to find the perfect match? Are you talking about the perfect match within yourself or finding a collaborator, Claudia? Not sure. But yeah. Okay, so your class.
One thing I was gonna add too is just, and for collaborator, I think it's all about feel, just someone you feel safe with, and someone who, I think it's important to have people who have a good sense of humor, who you kind of you're having fun. It's not this grim task, but you feel in flow with each other. But one other really good exercise to kind of get the ball rolling, which I've been using in my classes here and there, is online on YouTube. They have a thing. It just says cello, drone, and then in like A or C or D, and you can click on the link, and for like maybe 10 minutes, you'll just hear just one note. And then you can virtually get anything and sing in relationship to that drone over it. So you can get you can get the phone book, you can get a book of poetry and just start singing. Like, and as you're singing, you start to become aware of how the words are tasting in your mouth, where you're putting your consonants, which vowels you're tending to isolate. And I just find like it's like a really good place to connect language to sound, because a drone is neutral. There's no chord changes that you're trying to like be in and out of, but as you're singing, something is coming to you. You just follow what you might want to say. And when you know that it is so, you give your attention to that beat. You know, it's like whatever, it's just the act of singing words. It's like it starts to connect, because we talk words and we listen to music. But somehow to be able, that sometimes is really, I find really helpful. And in one thing I love to do too in a GarageBand when I'm writing is, once I have a groove going, to just like do 3 or 4 tracks of just singing, almost like improvising over the chords that you have, and don't like, without thinking ahead of what it's going to be, just see kind of what comes, and then later on going back, you listen to like 4 or 5 tracks, and you're going to find little moments that are just gems, like, oh, that's so cool, that's such an unusual piece of phrasing, or that's such a neat like idea where that went, or that particular way that the word was stressed or something. But again, just letting it flow, and then going back and sifting through, letting it flow and sifting through. And then once you have a kind of a solid starting point, it's easy for the rest of the song to kind of fall into place after that. That's just another idea.
Those are great ideas. And, you know, yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I mean, I definitely sing when I'm writing. You know, so I sit down. I like one song that I wrote a few years ago when I was feeling sad about something. I was feeling really sad, and I came in and I was playing these, you know, my fingers. I'm not a great piano player, but I can play a little bit, but my fingers generally go to these particular sounds, and I just started da 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 da. Yeah. It's all right, problems soon will disappear, you know. And that was a really nice song for me to connect to. But it was because of how I was feeling and because I was actually singing, you know,
Right.
and I'm already connected. So I really like the idea of putting on a drone and just, you know, I think it's a more inviting way to start writing.
Yeah,
you know?
because with a drone, there's like no note that's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, nothing is wrong,
Right.
which is so cool. And, you know, you saying that reminds me of that, you know, that Taylor Swift documentary, Americana. Like, I loved all the footage of watching her write, because it was like that. She'd be singing the lines and then kind of honing it, and she's working with someone else, but they just, like, the way that you saw things go from fuzzy to focus was really, really great. I thought it was a wonderful,
Cool.
That's definitely something to recommend or check out as like a window into the art of songwriting, because she's a phenomenal songwriter, really, truly.
Yeah. Here's a question too, from Craig Cochran. Do you ever write to the form? Meaning, now I'll write a chorus, now I'll write the verse, and now I'll write the bridge. Personally, yes, sometimes what comes to me first is like obviously a chorus. I think that song that I was just talking about, I think, it's all right, it's all right. I think that came first for me. But, you know, it changes all the time. Do you ever do that, Ashley? Write to the form?
You know, it's interesting because as I say, that my songwriting in recent years has been there's a hunger to exit the form more, particularly because in Senegalese music they have this one feature, which is that about 2/3 of the way through the song, there's often like a kind of a stop or a breakdown or some like interesting little transition, and then the entire rhythmic structure will shift from one, like in Senegal, because mbalax music is really based on sabar drumming, and sabar drumming, the dances have different names, and those kind of names, like it's like rhythmic groups of sound of relationships, and so everyone knows, like, oh, this is for lumbal, or this is for kaolak, or this is for chebujen. So there's this thing that it's always the most exciting part of the music, where it'll either go from slow to like faster, or fast to just suddenly like regal and kind of like slower, and has kind of just a different emphasis. So because of that, I'm always kind of looking for that similar thing, and sometimes it's really fun to just pivot and just go somewhere totally else. That being said, I also know that because, again, I'm bridging Africa and Western, you know, I have to kind of find that middle place so that I don't leave people behind, like, what the hell does she just do, you know? But you know, so I try to, my songs, if you look at them, they may rhythmically be kind of complicated, but essentially they're pretty simple. Like, as you say, verse, chorus, you know, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, like that is generally going to be it. But with this extra feature, you know, it's really kind of encouraged me. I have some songs in demo form that are really like, they go from room A to room B to room C to room D, E, F, G, and out. Like, it doesn't even circle back to anything. It's kind of neat. Yeah.
That's cool too. That's a great tool. I mean, I love when that happens. I remember hearing Weather Report, you know, stop in a song, and you thought it was over, and then 4 beats later, they came in with the best groove. Oh God.
Just something totally else.
Yeah.
Like, music is so much more free than we go to school, we learn all the rules, and then you just realize they're just there to be broken. You know.
Yeah. Claudia, she said to go on YouTube and type in cello drone. I'm sure there's other drones too, right?
Just because if you just do drone, you get all this like aircraft drone footage. But if you do cello, drone, and then the A they have it in different keys, so A or D or C. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
it reminds me of all the kind of Indian and Pakistani Qawwali music too, the harmoniums, you know,
right.
It's like it bounces off that floor.
Yeah, yeah. Can you mention a little bit about your class that you've been doing? Your
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, of course, with Rhiannon being, and she'll be on in 20 minutes. So please, everybody, stay for the goddess. She will be here. Yeah, she's kind of was the source point for so many of us. But over the 7 years, I've been doing improv with you guys, and then also teaching at LA College of Music. And also, I know that there's some really good teachers in LA. Kate Richards-Geller has her wonderful class on a regular basis. And it's just, mine is not really circle singing, because I find that circle singing is, has its merits, but the thing that really interests me is how can I get people who are musical enough, you know, they can keep a pitch, a tune, a rhythm, but get them to that place where they're creating before they can get in their own way. So many of the exercises that we do is really about just, you know, like one of my favorites is I'll have everyone go around the house where we are and pick up just an object, anything. They have to remember where it is. They can put it back, but they put it in a basket, and then the basket goes around, and then you have to pull something out of the basket. Something, it might be a pencil, it might be a coin, and just start singing about this coin. It's a penny and I love pennies. And then everyone has to, almost like a jingle, everyone has to jump in and create something around, like penny, penny, it is a penny, do the pennies. And everyone immediately finds their harmonies. Penny, it is a penny, blah, blah, blah. And then someone solos, and then a minute later, done. Next person reaches in. And what could it be like? This is the thing that I've been waiting for. And then they start singing. But it's just, again, it's that thing of like, you don't pick it up and go like, okay, what really cool thing am I going to sing about now? You just open your mouth, and it's pre-conscious.
Yeah.
That's, you know, and so I really, and you know, I love my students. They're from all walks of life. They come in, some of them come in just like with already big sweat stains under their arms just from the thought of doing what they're about to do. They're terrified, but they keep coming back because they're like, they leave just feeling so like, oh my God, I did that. It's like walking over hot coals, you know. But it's great. It's really great. It's not circle singing. It's definitely improv. And many of the exercises would be familiar to you. We do some like what I call three-face front, and what I call conversation, you know, just people getting up, two people, just you create, you look at each other and just start singing something. You start having a conversation. But and in the doing of it and watching one another engage, you also learn, I see, you kind of start learning the art of it, just like anything. It's like an art.
Yeah.
So the students that have come for a long time, they have a little bit of swagger now, like, yeah, I got this thing. And then the new ones are like, you know, what's going to happen? But it's a really joyful couple of hours, and I love teaching it. Yeah, and the thing that's so nice, as you know, with vocal improv is you can take it around the world. You know, I taught one class at Dakar, and that was really funny because my friend who was over there, the Senegalese woman who gathered the singers, they didn't really know what to expect. So they heard, oh, there's this American woman who's having singers over to do this thing. So they thought it was going to be like some audition of some kind. So they all arrived like dressed up, like, yeah, you know, like, what's this all about? And then I'm like, actually, we're just creating music. They were so confused. But it was really cool because they picked up the concepts really fast. And for me, it was a joy to work with them because rhythmically we were all speaking the same language. It's like, yeah, they were so locked in, and their rhythmic ideas were so interesting. So that was super fun. Once COVID-19 has passed, you know, my real dream is to be out in the world teaching and performing. And, you know, this African music the 7 albums I have and everything is really get out there and put it on stage and have people, you know, just introduce it to the world, because it's been this work that I've been doing kind of over here in a corner for so long. But now that my kids are independent, you know, I really should be out in the world being the global diva, not just the LA diva, not just the little LA diva, but the global diva.
I can see it, baby. I can see it.
See it too.
I really can, yeah. Hey, I just wonder, I'm pretty sure that the latency won't happen, but can we try improvising together?
Okay, yeah, start something.
Okay. Start something. Boop. To start something. Start something. Boop. Boop. 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 Start something. Boop. Boop.
I'll do.
Start something.
I can't wait for Rhiannon to be born next. I can't wait. I can't wait for Rhiannon. It's her birthday.
Birthday, Rhiannon's birthday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 75. 75. Rhiannon 75. 75. 77. 75. That was kind of interesting, actually, because we were latent and we were playing with the latency. We should do that. That's kind of a fun exercise, you know?
Yeah, again, I think it's like one has to hold something and the other one can play, and then one, because rhythmly it's hard to lock in.
Yeah.
With that just even that little delay without being face to face.
Yeah.
But we can drone.
Yeah.
And push off one another.
Also, if we purposefully wait, then I think it actually might come out as a solid piece, because we're purposely waiting, you know. Let's see.
Any last questions? Any last?
I would like to, by the way, Mon says baka baka baka. And Alvin says ribbit, ribbit. Can you talk a little bit about your dance? Because your dance is so cool.
Oh, yeah, that's another hour. But as I said earlier, when I was in London, I realized that the dance and the music in Africa, it's like one thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to just learn one and not the other, because they're so twinned. And in an interesting way, I think, like, for Africans, it's like the body, spirit, mind connection. To me, in general, and this is a wild generalization, so please excuse me if anyone feels otherwise, but I just feel like mind, body, spirit is just much more integrated there. Here, I feel like we're all kind of more split off. You know, there's the mind over here, and then there's the body over here, and then there's, you know, it's just we work so hard to integrate, but I think something in the culture, and again, wild generalization, from what I've experienced over there, is it's just kind of more, it's more one, you know. So, I started studying dance from all over Africa when I was in London. I did dance from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Ivory Coast for 7 years, from Tanzania, Guinea, Mali, Senegal. And then one time I was in New York, I was passing through New York. I'd seen Sabar dance when Baba Mal had come to London to do concerts, and he had two guys dressed in blue on either side of him, and I was like, what is that? That is so amazing. So when I passed through New York, there was a teacher teaching Sabar, and I remember, again, it was that like a glass window, and the dancers the drummers were right in front of the window, and you could see the dancers coming toward the drummers. And again, I was like on the window, like, I want to learn that. So that was in 1998. And it just, when I came back to LA, I'd been doing all this kind of mainly djembe dance in London. This guy named Aziz Fai arrived in LA right at the same time as I did. And his older brother has the percussionist for Youssou for like 30 years. And Aziz is a genius. So I had the complete good fortune to take every single class he taught here. I think in the 30 years I studied with him, I think I've missed like 3 classes that he's taught. I've been like one of those like, I'm here, always. I just loved the dance so much. So, and Sabar dance is, it's unlike other African, it's just very unique. It's very straight up. The rhythms are so complicated. They're like catnip. They're like, oh, my dream come true. They're so cool. And there's a lot of, it was originally kind of for women, so it's a very kind of female, it's got a lot of humor. It's so interesting to see how it's moved around the world, because it has, a lot of it has this kind of like here I am kind of humor to it, as like you don't just dance with your body, you dance with your face and your attitude, like wow, you know. And one thing that's interesting is how it's caught on in Japan, because there's big communities of Japanese dancers, women in particular.
Really?
Into it, yeah. And they are relentlessly on point when it comes to the details.
Yeah.
But plus, it's really cool because you know Japanese culture more than I do, but it's almost like this access to this kind of wild female energy that it seems like Japanese culture doesn't have many opportunities to express. Right. So these women who are very, like, you know, that you can tell they're just very they're very Japanese, and yet they attack it with this ferocity and this sensuality and this attitude, and it's really neat to see.
Wow. Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, there's
Interesting.
There's a huge traffic of Japanese dancers going back and forth to Dakar.
Wow.
There's this one, my favorite is this woman named Nodoka Kamata, who is she's a tiger. She's such a good dancer. And even over in Senegal, like, there'll be these huge big dance parties, and everyone over there knows her. She'll come out and do some incredible solo, and then she'll kind of stand and go like, meaning like, where's my money? Because, you know, somebody will give them money, and then you put the money in your mouth, like, and you dance with like a dollar bill hanging out of your mouth, like, yeah. So she'd do some great solo and then just stop, and everyone's like screaming, like, yeah, no. And then she'll go, my masamahalis, like, ana samahalis, where's my money? And starts coming over and giving her money, you know. But
wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, my body is older now. So there's a whole new, in LA, there's some young dancers here they've been starting to go back and forth to Senegal. They're so good. And there's actually a woman in LA. Her name is Abigail Fritz, and she's at Heart Dancer, the Heart.Dancer on Instagram. She's also on Facebook. And she's an amazing dancer too. She has even a wider range of styles than me. But she teaches classes in, like, on the West Side and Midtown. There's also a great dancer named Dante Fayal, who he teaches at Mid City Arts. Another young dancer, Kosi Williams. Babacar Ndiaye is kind of like my current master here, because Aziz has gone back to Senegal. But Babacar Ndiaye, when classes are rolling, he's teaching like this phenomenal class on Friday nights at Debbie Allen's. Everybody comes. It's like packed with drummers and sweat. It's just so great. So yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. So if somebody was interested in this, what's the best way to check out the different kinds of dances, and then, you know, start from there, like, oh, I like this style.
Hmm. Well, I mean, the two main ones that are available in LA that I know of are djembe dance and sabar dance. So you could look up sabar dance or djembe dance.
Okay.
Djembe, like from Guinea or Senegal. There's also, like as I say, Abigail. She teaches kind of an Afrobeat class on Thursday nights, which is really good, and it's much more. That's kind of a little more accessible, like in terms of it's not like so much hair flipping and jumping and crazy, but it's like a little bit more to the on the ground and kind of like just I don't know, like dancing in the club kind of vibe. But she makes it so she's got a really just beautiful vibe, you know. And then I have a feeling there's also like some Congolese classes in town, but I don't know where they are.
Okay.
About.
And to end off, tell people how to see you performing and dancing. Your videos, Ashley's videos are so great. I mean, they're really wonderful. Would they just find them? Just go to YouTube, or should they go to your site, or how would they?
Yeah, I mean, my site, my website, on the video page, there's some kind of a selection because there's so many videos on YouTube now that it's kind of like. But also another idea is if you go to my YouTube channel. And go to playlists. Yeah, you can see them kind of arranged. So there's live videos. There's like the music videos that almost always feature dancing. There's acoustic things or this. So at least you're not just like needle in the haystack. What are you looking for? Okay, good. Thank you, Ashley Maher. Peace and blessings. Thank you so much for having me. And everybody, stay creative, stay well, wash your hands. Stay peaceful and just. In faith, so that we can download what's coming, because there are really good things coming that will come out of this. And thank you, Cathy, for keeping us so connected and in conversation with one another. Peace and blessings to everyone. And I now yield my time to the goddess in charge. Okay, so now I'll switch over. Bye, Ashley. Love you, baby. Ciao. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be calling Rhiannon. So hold on and wait for me to do this. Wait. Okay, let's see. Rhiannon from my phone book. Yes, that is correct. Oh, this is Skype. Let me. Yeah, hold on there. FaceTime. Let's see if I can do Rhiannon on FaceTime. Couldn't do Ashley on FaceTime. Okay, let's see. Let's see if she answers. Rhiannon is not the pop Rhiannon, of course. Rhiannon is the jazz. Well, I guess you could call her jazz, but she's really more than jazz. Rhiannon, hi! Oh, it's so wonderful to see you.
You too.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has.
I'm putting you up because we're already online. I don't know if you know this, but I had Ashley Maher on.
I did know that.
Yeah, and so that was cool because there's a connection, and she had a lot of great stuff to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rhiannon, not the pop Rhiannon, and and I mean, there's a lot to say about Rhiannon. She has been in her career for a long, long time. I'm going to, ask her questions, and she's going to talk about it. She lives in Hawaii, but she's a world traveler. She's been in several different really main groups that have been extremely active and popular booking wise, based around improvisation and always, I believe, always music too at this point. And she's been in Bobby McFerrin's groups, and she's taught at Berkeley. She has something called All the Way In, and which is something that she's set up in three, I believe you can correct me, but 3 different areas of the planet. So if you want to join in and be in a workshop group, you join in and then you go to the 3 different places in the year, and it's like a major continuation. So one thing, Rhiannon, you won't see the comments and the questions, so I'll be interrupting a little bit to tell you, like, for instance, Cecily says hello.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So Rhiannon, would you tell us, I know this, you can't go into too intricate detail because there's so much, but would you tell us what you've been doing for the last bunch of years? And by the way, happy birthday!
Yes.
Man,
75 just yesterday.
that is so cool.
That's a lot to take in.
How does it feel?
Well, as big birthdays often have for me,
Yeah.
I would say anticlimactic.
Right.
Because there's this preparation for it,
Yeah.
this anticipation of it. Then when it comes, it's like, oh, well, okay. We finally got here.
Just another day on planet Earth.
It is in fact. So I had so much birthday love from a bunch of singers who came to the island in March before the coronavirus got so serious. So I had so much birthday love then. I feel very, very full and ready for another 25.
Cool. 25. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so, I don't really know how you started singing. Were you like me, like 5 years old, and you started, doing shows, or you were an actress as well, right, in the beginning?
I was born on the South Dakota, Nebraska border on a farm.
Okay.
With parents who really loved the arts, and they loved dancing, and they got me piano lessons kind of young, as well as my sisters, and then voice lessons when they realized that I was really interested in that. So I was really lucky that I had their support, and I had all these lessons, and it was always my safe place to go in my practice room at school, to go to the piano room at home, and to go walking by myself, inventing music. So when I got to college, I quit singing.
Oh.
And because I was studying classical music at that point, and it was clear to me that I didn't want to pursue that kind of singing life. I could see what that was about.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of other options being there in the Midwest. So I quit. That's when I went into acting. And so my undergraduate degree and then my graduate degree at Cornell were in acting. And then I moved to New York, and I was going to be an actor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like, all the big cattle calls where 100 people would come to audition for one part.
Was that in the 60s?
It was.
Yeah.
It was very, very disheartening. Trying to figure out how I could be different from all those other 99 people for that one part. So, fortunately, I was hanging out with some people who went to jazz clubs.
Yay!
So I started going to jazz clubs, and I went to see a lot of singers. I got to see Ella Fitzgerald in New York,
yeah.
Miles Davis, and a lot of really extraordinary people. And the first thing that interested me was not even so much the singers, but was the improvisation. I had never encountered how somebody figured out to leave the melody and arrive back at the right place. that was fascinating to me. So I could go live. You could go for $5 or so to any of the really good jazz clubs in New York. And I would just go and sit there and watch how they did that. And sometimes at these blindingly fast speeds.
Yeah.
So it was the improvisation that got my interest. And then I started learning the repertoire, but I wasn't singing. I was listening.
Yeah.
I was just listening. I really wasn't singing at all. And then I got to Chicago with a nonprofit organization and was in a street theater, and they wanted me to sing, and people started commenting on my singing. And then by the time I got to California, it was time to, I put a notice on a bulletin board in those days, and I got a band. And I started deepening my study of jazz. I went to a community college and studied the jazz history and chord progressions and theory and lots of things that I had missed.
Yeah.
And jazz was my way back to music, that's for sure. Because the songs were so interesting, the melodies were so beautiful. And then I was writing music with this guy who wanted me to sing the songs over and over again so he could understand if the melodies were good. And I could see that he was good at improvising. So I got him to listen to me sing over chord changes over and over again to try to figure out how do you get past your first layer of ideas and not just keep repeating the same ideas, but how do you actually step off the pathway? And so we would have these sessions where I would sing, I don't know, like 30 times through the changes and just keep trying to understand it. So I started teaching because I needed to make money. I'm sure that's true for a lot of other people who end up finding teaching very compelling. When I first started, I was teaching other jazz singers, and I couldn't figure out how to get them off their little box of how they perceived improvising. It just seemed like I wasn't doing anybody any good, and I just didn't know how to do it. So I went back into my theater training and started thinking, well, how would I do it in that world, which had more to do with the body and had more to do with more to do with acting.
Yeah.
And so I started feeding those two things together. I started doing more gigs. I found Alive, which was the women's jazz ensemble.
Oh, yeah.
And we were writing all our own material, and we were practicing many hours together. And all those things were just letting me woodshed a lot. Because I was in my late 20s, early 30s doing this, and I recognized that I was kind of late to the study of jazz. So I dug in really hard, and I would go to, in San Francisco, it was the Keystone Corner and the Great American Music Hall. I would go there pretty much every night. And you know, a lot of my education around jazz was listening. Yeah. I don't know if that's true for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, coming up, definitely. And even now, but yeah, I mean, everybody usually says that, you know, that's you can't ignore that. That has to be part of the schooling.
Well, because there wasn't a way to study it as a singer in any kind of conservatory at that point. It just wasn't there. So, and I surrounded myself with people who loved jazz and who had huge record collections. So when we got together, it would be listening parties.
Cool.
It was a really beautiful time. So then Alive kind of diverted the jazz path because we were not only writing in that genre and doing some of the repertoire from jazz, but we were also exploring women's ideas, lyrics about women, other ways of approaching collaborative writing. So my world got expanded to think about just other genres and ways of putting music together. and we, because we practiced so much, and then we toured. We had a big RV that we bought together, and we would travel all across the U.S. We'd be gone for months.
Wow.
And in those days, you could actually make money doing that. A whole band, and we lived in the RV because we had enough beds. We would write music there. We would cook for each other. It was amazing, and there were not only jazz venues, but there were a lot of women's production companies who wanted us to come. So we had a nice big touring schedule. And then meanwhile, my teaching was growing because I was leaving the realm of working with song form singers. I felt like there were a lot of other people teaching song form. And I thought what I had to offer was to figure out how you go free. How do you actually step out of a song form and still make musical sense? That was really important to me. And about that time I met Bobby McFerrin. I was watching him because he came to prominence in the Bay Area. He was living there. And what I saw was that his improvisations were almost always rhythmically solid. And that was something I wasn't experiencing in a lot of the free improvisation that was around the Bay Area at that time. I mean, that was some wild stuff. We're talking off the edge, no tonal center, no, just the desire to go free. So when I met Bobby, what I saw was that rhythmic center and also melodies. He was making beautiful melodies. And for me, those two things have guided a lot of the way I teach people to improvise, because I really love song form. And when I teach people, I'm always imagining that they think improvisation is separate from other music. And I try to propose the idea that it's just another aspect of music and that the same ideas apply: rhythm, melody, harmony, tonal quality, chord progressions, even though you might not be having them on an instrument if you're with an a cappella group, but still you're following song form. So I was just thinking yesterday, there was Bobby, and then I was in the original Voices Draw, and we learned his repertoire, and then we cast that out into the ocean, and we started doing improvised concerts. Then I had a group called Bowl Full of Sound, which was a piano player, Frank Martin, Joey and David, who I met in Voices Draw, and an electric cello player named Jamie Siebert. So then we were putting instruments and voices together. We were doing some repertoire and some free improvisations. Those gigs were really beautiful. I have one album from that time. And then I started working with the spontaneous guys down in LA. Otmaro Ruiz, Abraham Laboreal,
Alex Acuna.
And Alex Acuna.
Yeah.
And we set about doing completely improvised gigs. And I know you know that when you're improvising with instruments rather than voices, you're setting up a whole other possibility of structures and scales that have to be paid attention to. Otherwise, you're going to be in big harmonic trouble. So that was a real lesson, and I learned that we actually could construct some beautiful pieces by paying a lot of attention to each other and knowing that as musicians in Western music, we have a lot of similar understandings about all of it. Yeah. So that was great. And then we be three, me and David and Joey, started going on the road and teaching together as well, so that we all learned more about each other's forms. Like I learned more about bass singers and percussion singers, and they learned more about creating language and soloing. So we toured for quite a long time. And now there's Gimme Five with Bobby and We Be Three and Judy Vernard. So that's been extraordinary because it's an a cappella group, and also because we're we're singing with our deepest mentor in life, Bobby. So the four of us have had to navigate how to pay attention to our own creative impulse and what he is proposing. If we pay too much attention to him, we don't follow our own creative impulse, and the thing bogs down, and it all ends up with Bobby having to create the path.
Yeah.
If we don't listen long enough to Bobby and figure out where he's headed, we miss the genius of his ideas.
Yeah.
So that's been a profound learning of
That
of
is
how to do
so
those.
cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so important, and you might not imagine, looking at you guys who are so experienced, that would even be part of your learning curve right now. But so it can happen at any time at all. Also, it kind of reminds me of creating with great musicians, of which in LA we're blessed with so many great musicians. It's the kind of the same thing, you know. You get up and you're creating, and you have to pay attention. Like if you're singing with Atmaro, you have to pay attention to what he's giving you and where he might be going. But you can't totally acquiesce, because then you lose yourself, and that's what making music is about. It's combining for a more beautiful oneness, you know.
Yeah. Well, that certainly occurs in song form as well,
Yeah.
in any kind of music where
Yeah.
you have to give and take, figure it out. But it's a highly evolved situation when you're improvising.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I learned, I learned this actually a lot with Alive, because we were all women and we were so determined to be equal,
Yeah.
which was really important. But with the spontaneous guys in LA, that I thought, well, if I start every piece because I'm the singer, we're only going to get my starting points.
Yeah.
So I said to them early on, look, I don't care who starts next. Whoever has an idea, just start. We'll all agree to follow. And of course, that made them really happy, because they're brilliant. And it let me off the hook. And I think singers can get very stuck in that place of standing out front and feeling therefore responsible for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's not the case.
Right.
It's much, much more interesting to have somebody start something and you get caught by surprise. That there's a piece that the Spontaneous Band did a live album in a big recording studio room. How do I say it? Not a recording studio, but there was a studio, and then there was a big.
Are you talking about in LA?
Yeah.
Yeah. That I was there. That was
Were
great.
you?
Yeah, I was there, and yeah, it was like a huge studio room, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we I wish we'd had everybody just be natural. I've watched the Snarky Puppy live sessions and realized, oh, that's a better way to do it. I think we made the audience kind of subdued because we didn't allow them to make any sound. And the natural situation is there's a more aliveness.
Yeah.
But some beautiful music came out of those sessions. One of them is a piece that's just recently been going around on Facebook again, called Rain.
Drop of Rain. Actually,
Yeah.
Cecily just mentioned that. She said,
Yeah.
genius collaborative piece.
And it started because Otmaro began. And the chord progression, you know from playing with him, his concept of chord progression, his way of hearing that pathway is so unusual, so special.
Yeah.
So he started playing that chord progression, and I just fell into this kind of reverie. So I feel sure that whole piece came just through him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
That's beautiful.
So I also have now a group of two other women singers who've been my students. One named Malena, who's in Denmark, and another one, Sophia, who's in Portugal. And we have done some gigs together, which is very interesting for 3 women to do it. I got used to Joey and David and me with this big sonic range.
Yeah.
And the 3 of us have found a whole other world that's, we all agree to do bass lines and to do percussive lines, but we also have a kind of womanly connection that's, wow, really, really precious. It's called Gaia's.
Okay.
So I'm now working with Lawrence Hobgood, the beautiful pianist, and a dancer from Montreal named Margie Gillis. And we're doing improvised situations with a dancer and an instrumentalist and a singer. Yeah. So we're seeing how that unfolds. We had some big work sessions scheduled for May, which will probably be postponed. But, you know, I feel like this period with the virus is inviting this incubation. And who better than artists to take advantage of an incubation period where you're forced to go in the studio by yourself or go to your journal or whatever. Don't you think that?
Absolutely. You know, when I don't watch the news, and I sit and I'm, you know, whatever, I'm just sitting and in the middle of whatever I'm in, I actually get this wave of joy and this expectancy, a joyful expectancy of what is happening. I really do. I feel like I agree with you. I think it's an amazing period. You know, the obvious discomforts are there, but there's something else that's happening, and it's pretty thrilling to anybody who's sensitive to that kind of thing can feel it. I know. Yeah. It's really an interesting time. I was curious, with Alive, with the all women group, do you feel, I mean, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I wonder if they felt like they were really changing women somehow, changing women's points of view, because it was the 60s or 70s.
It started in 75 and went about to 85. Yeah,
I mean, that was a pretty growing time, especially for women, you know, waking up. And do you feel like it was actually known between you all that you were kind of making inroads?
Oh my Lord, we were on a mission.
Well, there it is.
We really felt it not only as musicians but as women, for sure. For example, we had Carolyn Brandy, who grew up playing violin. Yeah. And somewhere in there, she started watching the men doing hand drumming gatherings in parks. Yeah. And she got completely compelled by it. And as you can imagine and know, women hand drummers have had to really work hard to be respected and find their place in music. So many of those traditions have not included women. So she was there playing violin, but also congas, and has gone on to become an ethnomusicologist of Afro-Cuban music and spent a tremendous amount of time in Cuba freeing up the bata drum for women to be able to play as well as men. Suzanne DiVincenzo, who started the first women's electrical company in California. So she was strong. I said strong. Pulling, through the conduit. She played acoustic bass. She grew up playing cello and then switched to the acoustic bass, and she was definitely strong enough to play that instrument and carry it around. Yeah. So every time we played, at least on those 2 instruments, and Barbara Borden on the drum set, people, and women in particular, were seeing these unusual instruments that women were playing and playing them really well. So that alone, for a while, Stacey Rolls played with us. Oh, really? And she was horn player. Yeah. Her dad's great musician, and she was carrying on that tradition. So we were really aware of it. But the tricky spot was we could get to a certain point with jazz festivals and clubs, and then it felt like that glass ceiling that women talk about so much.
Yeah.
We just couldn't quite convince them that we were for real. Our interviews were often mostly questions about why weren't there men in the band, just instead of asking us about the music.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we were playing at women's festivals and women's venues, all these places, but there weren't that many women playing jazz. There weren't that many jazz ensembles in that whole circuit of women's music. And we felt kind of alone there and a little bit misunderstood. So we traveled. We just kept going wherever we could get in the door. And we talked a lot about the place of women in music and what it meant. I think it's a really important place that musicians are part of the political landscape.
Yeah.
In whatever way you feel like doing that. But the lyrics that we sing have a lot of power. The instruments we play, the places we play, the way we stand up for each other, all those things, that changed my life.
Yeah.
That just put a kind of direction for me. And we collaborated writing music. Somebody would bring in an idea and then we'd fill it out together. So learning how to write collaboratively and how to protect your pieces when they weren't quite ready. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then not hoard them for fear of somebody taking them away.
Yeah. Wow, so many lessons, so many great lessons. Ashley was mentioning, we were talking about dancing a lot, because she's a dancer. And so apparently I had no idea. I go to Japan a lot, but I had no idea that Japan has a major African dance community. And how this one woman goes to Dakar and she's really like, they have all the moves down, but they're also kind of exploding because, of course, Japan tends to suppress its women, right? And so she's exploding, and she has this attitude, like a diva attitude, and there's something, a phrase that says, give me the money, because they get money and then they hold it in their mouth and then they dance. So she did this, awesome movement, and then she'll say the phrase like, "Where's my money?" And, oh man, it just made me like, wow, man, that has got to be a huge game changer in Japan. Huge.
Yeah. I have this. Do you teach when you're over there, or are you mostly performing?
I teach. I both.
I feel I have a little bit of inroad in Japan and offer to go to Taiwan, and I've thought about South Korea. I feel like that is going to explode when the improvising, the really creative parts of songwriting and improvising get going there, because my experience with Japanese women that I know, once they go over that line and they're not suppressed anymore,
right.
Oh my. Some of the strongest women I know are these Japanese women. Yeah. So I feel like there's a huge openness there, some huge desire. Some of my best students at Berkeley were the Asian kids. Yeah. That came from so far away to study. They were so diligent. Yeah, I love teaching in Japan. I get so much pleasure out of it, and it's so easy to be kind and empathetic. And really, I'd say 99% of the people I hear are good. They have, they've grown up with karaoke, and they have created. But it's just not in this broad, outspoken way necessarily. Yeah. But boy, when they get the aha moment and they get acknowledged, it's huge. It's really huge, and it's lovely. Yeah, I agree with you. I saw Keith Terry the other day, you know him. And so I've been talking about him on this because we've been talking about groove and how to get groove and stay with groove. And so Keith on Thursdays
is having a Facebook Live on his body percussion, you know, and so he, you know, he's done this since 1978, and he's traveled all over the world. But he was saying, especially in Thailand, he's gone, you know, and it's been wonderful.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and I kind of came up together in the Bay Area, and the same time that of meeting Bobby, and there was really this explosion of so much music in, I think, everywhere, but in the Bay Area is where I was, and and there was all this mix of forms. That's what I loved about it.
And the 70s I was in Boston at Berkeley. I mean, there was Motown and ECM and, you know, Miles and Woodstock, and all of those were really blues. You know, it was really a vibrant time for music coming up.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you, above everybody, if you can talk to people. You know, there's a lot of people listening who would like to, in various forms, they'd either like to improvise or they'd like to just use this particular quality in their singing. But how does one stay creative in the moment without the baggage of thinking? Do you have any advice for people like that? I mean, I know you do it as second nature, but, you know.
Well, for me, it's practice. It's all those years of trying things, faltering, trying again. It's really just learning another aspect of music. What I settled on as I started teaching more improvisation, and I feel like once I started teaching improvisation, I got like a direct line to my spirit, because I realized, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I work with people on skill and a kind of intuitive openness, a kind of spiritual openness. So for me, that's why all these Asian kids could be really, really great improvisers, because they're busy building skills. They really treat that with a lot of reverence. Mm-hmm. The skill, the exact melody, being really in tune, all those things. I work with improvisers trying to get those skills in place, because otherwise the improvisations can become very formless, out of tune. You can't really play with other people because you can't find each other. Mm-hmm. So it feels critical to learn as much music as you can. Not only jazz, which has so many beautiful melodies and rhythmic structures, but also world music. Yeah. To get into other scales and other tonalities with your voice. Mm-hmm. But then equally and in balance, to study the intuitive aspects. I started to develop exercises to get people just to think about short improvised pieces that they can make. For example, there's an exercise called Spirolution. So I would, and I'm as soon as I finish this conversation with you, I'm going to talk to my manager, Margie. We're trying to develop some online lessons like everybody else's, but I can see how important these are. Yeah. Stay in touch with each other. Yeah. So say I develop a pattern, like a 2-bar pattern, kind of simple pattern, and I sing it for a while, and whoever I'm singing with, they sing it, so we all get comfortable with the pattern. And then I signal that I'm going to change, and then I just do a variation of the pattern. Mm-hmm. And then everybody sings that variation. and then we go back to the original pattern. And then the next person does a variation. We sing the variation back to them, and we go back to the pattern. So we go all the way around the circle doing those three things: the pattern, the variation, and singing it back. In doing it online, people would have to mute, so to decrease that lag, that time lag.
Yes.
But there's something about theme and variations in improvisation, as it is in composition. Very much the same thing. When you write a song, often you get that nice theme melodic line, which might reoccur or get turned around, but you're working with the theme and then you vary it. So I feel like the same thing happens in improvisation. So this is something that anybody could do at home, and it's called home.
Oh yeah.
So
cool.
Actually, that's really how I learned to improvise. I would get myself to do that for 3 or 5 minutes a day, and do uneven numbers of the pattern and then variations.
Yeah.
And instead of 2 in, 2 out, 2 in, 2 out, that way you start to get in a box. But if you sometimes just do 1 in, 4 out, you have to stay very alert so you know where the 1 is. Because the idea is to always come back on the 1 and always come back with exactly the same pattern, not some variation of the pattern. So I've been teaching this, I don't know, like 40 years, this idea. And I have people do it in a group and then practice it at home. So just this year, I finally thought, well, I better see how well they're doing at it. So I had individual singers do it in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And it was really revealing. It's harder than it seems, and people go, either they don't come back on the 1 or they change the pattern. Yeah. And I think if you can do that and get like a metronome with your singing, so that you can really be trusted to be rhythmically sound. Yeah. And you can really be trusted to keep a melody and not vary it when that's the idea. When I started to teach improvisation, I realized, oh, I'm with the anarchists now. They don't want to do the same thing. They're improvising because they want to do something new all the time. And I'm sure you've experienced this with Fish to Birds. You have to use form. In order to go out, you've got to know where in is. Yeah, otherwise it's just a bunch of crap thrown on the wall. It is. Yeah. And the same thing, I think, applies when you're singing over chord changes. Mm-hmm. You might be able to follow the chord changes, but if it's just a bunch of licks, it's much less authentic and powerful than if you're really hearing exactly what chord is there and you're really following a through line that doesn't stop every bar and then start over again. Yeah. Yeah, the way I describe that to my students is, don't think vertically, think horizontally, so that you're connected, you're flowing, and there's a connection going through, instead of like what you just said, a great idea, another great idea. It just doesn't, it's not as satisfying. Yeah. Which is the beauty of singing over chord changes, because there's this longer expanse of changing tonality underneath. Yeah, and actually getting back to my question, which you're actually answering the question, but I asked, how would you tell people to be in the moment and not be thinking and or afraid? But you're actually telling the story of it, which is it's your focus. You're focusing on music, making music,
moving along forward and form and all these things. And that really, truly is the answer, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. And it's also the reason that I pretty much stopped doing private lessons and started working with groups, because I felt that learning could come so much faster if the whole group was working. For example, if you're doing that exercise of going around the circle and everyone doing a variation and then we sing back, you don't have time to think about what you're going to sing, because you're very occupied with listening to that person so you can sing back accurately the pattern that they sang. Because what happens to a lot of us is we just get in our own heads. So a lot of the exercises I developed have to do with a kind of group mind, where the generosity is the key. That you really are listening to other people. You're not just waiting for your turn.
Right.
You're really listening to them.
Yeah.
You're really listening to the next one. And even though you feel it coming your way, you've got so much to think about that when it comes your way, chances are you're just going to sing something rather than what your mind thinks. Because Cathy, no matter what you are planning in your mind, it's not going to come out that way.
Right, and planning is bad.
Yeah, and it's very disconcerting when it comes out some other way. Bobby would say this in concerts all the time. Planning? There's no planning in improvisation. But it's really easy to do. And as a teacher, you can look at somebody and see when they're planning.
Yo, definitely.
It's written right across the
Totally. I was looking up here. I did a 5-day workshop about 5 years ago, and anyway, there were these two little 4-line ideas that came out of it, and one was show up, observe, be honest, don't plan the outcome. And those things are always, they're always happening. It's not like it happens in this one moment and that's it. It's always show up, you have to be there and observe, you have to be honest, and you can't plan the outcome.
That's really right.
Isn't that cool?
It's really the same as what you would say to somebody who's going to meditate.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, I realized that I was dealing with life skills, not just music skills, but really life skills.
Yeah.
If you can learn how to sit with a group of people who are trying to work out something and actually listen to them and not just be waiting for your turn to talk, but actually be listening, the generosity of that, it's huge. And given the political climate around the world, and particularly in the States, that's what's not been going on. And I feel like it may be that through this virus, we're going to need to listen to each other as a life and death situation. And so it is in music. If we listen to each other, we just get so much further. I can remember the first time I played with a really good piano player, and their chord voicings just kind of blew my circuits open, because they were playing these other altered notes that allowed me to think of other notes to sing. And I couldn't have come up with that on my own. So the only way I could get it was to listen to them deeply, rather than use them as my, how singers get separated from their rhythm section sometimes.
Yeah. I talk about that as universes. The first universe that a singer needs to be aware of is their own universe, and be responsible in their own universe and connected to all the stuff that makes you a good singer. Then the second universe has that universe, and it expands to the musicians you're playing with. So now you're in this universe that is shared with the musicians, and then the third universe shares with the audience. And sometimes singers go the other way around, and sometimes they jump over the second universe, and So
you're right.
Yeah,
you're so right. Yeah. It's one of the deep, abiding lessons of singing with Bobby, is that he's pretty much the same on stage as he is anywhere else. He doesn't really change when he goes on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, except that he's singing, which is this miracle. But, and when last year we were in some parts of Eastern Europe where he is regarded not just as a musician, but as a freedom carrier.
Yeah.
That's my observation. And they know what that means not to have freedom in a very, very specific way. So when he comes, he's a rock star. I have never toured in that modality, so it was alarming to me. We'd arrive at the concert and there'd be this crush around us, and we'd go on stage and there'd be 100 photographers right below the stage taking photographs, and I'd look over at Bobby and he just wasn't changed.
Yeah.
He was not changed by it. He would start in the same way and go deep into some place. And that's an ongoing lesson for me, is how to be on stage the same as you are when you're off stage, except that you happen to be singing.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
It is really hard, but definitely it's the people. I mean, personally, I've noticed that those are the people I love the most. You know, they're just totally honest. I had the good fortune to hear a number of singers in the last 2 months in LA who were interestingly enough, they were all singing with only two other musicians. And one was Kate McGarry, Luciana Souza, Sina Eeg, and Michelle Nicole from Australia. They were all totally themselves. They were all elegant in their truthfulness and their, just being themselves. They were all, they were in the musician state of mind. They, they were in that second universe, and it was a joy to see them. It was so satisfying and fulfilling, to hear them and see them in action.
I really love that analogy, Cathy, of those three universes. That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're out front, it's really possible to get oriented just toward the audience and what they want.
Yeah.
And it's so fragile. One person can look at you funny and your whole universe gets tilted in an odd way.
Yeah. That's so true. God,
and it might have nothing to do with you.
Oh, totally. God, there's been so many lessons about that I've had, and I'm sure you have all over the years, I mean, just singing to that man and wife. The guy is smiling at you and the woman is looking like she wants to kill you. And then you just start singing to the woman, like with warmth and connection, and all of a sudden you see her melting away, And I mean, lots and lots of lessons about that. That's a really interesting area.
Yeah. Before we, I want to make sure to say, you talked a little bit about All the Way In, and I just want to say that's been a life changer for me. I was teaching maybe even week-long workshops for quite a number of years, and I would get to the end of the week and think, all right, now the door is open, and then they'd be gone.
Yeah.
So I looked around for models of longer programs, and actually I found the model I used had quite a bit to do with a yoga teacher that somebody turned me on to. And the idea of the first I did it, all 3 weeks were back to back with just the weekends off. No good. Too much information.
Right.
No time to integrate. I felt very overwhelmed, and I'm sure the singers did, but it was powerful.
Yeah.
So I stopped that for a few years and rethought it, and I thought, well, what if we were in 3 different locations and there was homework and time to do that homework in between? So now I've built this beautiful 1,000 square foot studio on my farm in Hawaii. And people love to come here because the nature is very raw and they crack open. That's what I discovered about Hawaii. It's not only beautiful, I'm on the big island with the lava, with Pele. So it's powerful here.
Yeah.
And people feel that right away. So they come here and they study for a week. And I have two, what I call co-pilots, who are senior teachers who work with me. We do feedback with people. We do a lot of learning. I mentor them for the whole year. It's a beautiful collaboration with me and the two co-pilots. So we spend a week studying and learning, and then they all get homework, and then they go back home. Somewhere along the way, we have conference phone calls, and everybody checks in, and they answer a question on a certain subject that we devised to help people stay connected and progress. And then they have musical homework, writing songs in odd meter, lyrics, collaborating with each other, learning a Chet Baker solo, learning a ballad, all different kinds of homework.
Yeah.
And then we meet in another location mid-year, and then more homework and development, and then a third session. I have no idea if that model will be allowed to continue in the modern world of what is happening with travel and the carbon footprint of all that. I'm very aware of that. But wow, location, the earth in those three places has so much to do with how people learn. They're so affected by the culture of the place where we are. That I have felt the places have been extremely valuable, very, very much a part of the learning.
Yeah.
And so I'm continuing for now. We're supposed to be in Italy in July. I have no idea if that's going to be possible, but we'll reschedule. And then we go to Montreal, which is a beautiful city, and we have guests, and we do a big final performance with a dancer and other instrumentalists. It's a big program in which people not only learn from me, but they develop deep friendships and collaborations with one another that are very, very valuable. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happens when I'm no longer able to teach that course, how to pass that on, because I think it's a really good model. It might have, certain things might have to change, but I imagine you would agree that the longer we can stay together, the more consistent the learning is, the more we get to come back to each other, the deeper the study goes.
Yeah.
And it got me as a teacher to going deeper and deeper with what I'm able to pass on, and the more I've dealt with sound healing, the more I've dealt with how to develop your own community where you are, how to work with instrumentalists, how to create performance in your own unique way. So I'm really grateful that that course has come to be. It's the 12th year this year.
Wow, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I was going to ask you something. Wow. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. It went right out. And it was so good. It was such a great question. I know that Emil has done it, and I know that...
yeah, he was a co-pilot.
Oh, cool. And Allison Wedding, I remember that's
Yes.
where they met, I think, right? Allison and Emil?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably know other people who have been in there.
I bet you do. It's it fans out. It's almost 200 singers now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. It's something I wanted to ask you something along those lines of learning.
Well, because I taught those couple of years in Berkeley.
Yeah.
It's really, if I'd gone there when I was 40, maybe it might have worked. But the fact was, I had just bought this farm in Hawaii with my partner, Janny.
Right.
And I've spent most of my life teaching outside of a conservatory setting. I know you understand.
Yes.
And got to develop my own curriculum. And that's a very beautiful way of of learning, as well as being in a conservatory and that kind of concentration. I think they complement one another.
Yeah.
I very often have people take all the way in who have just finished conservatory and kind of tossed their life around for a few years and then came to do all the way in.
Yeah.
I think it's really great that those of us who've been able to have a private kind of teaching practice in addition to conservatory training.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was wondering, you mentioned what the footprint will be, and how to stay creative, and it's there's so many things. The playing field is so wide open right now. So many things can occur and come up, and ideas of sharing and teaching. Is Kate Richards Geller a person you know as well?
She was the co-pilot too.
Yeah, she's been really forward thinking and acting, and she's a lot of people know her and follow her, and it's wonderful. She's very, very much on that creating in the moment, and also she did a Facebook Live thing of her singing in her room. She's so good at that. She's so comfortable with it, and she makes these beautiful sounds and interesting things. It's really a nice thing to see,
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
And she's done all this social change work using her music, which is a very important aspect of it all.
Yeah.
I wanted to say the thing about the different locations and the carbon footprint. Because of being raised on a farm in South Dakota and having no idea that I was going to get to be traveling in the world the way it has happened.
Yeah.
The way I learned about the world was from traveling. And the way I traveled was because of music.
Yeah.
I started going to Europe in the 80s. I would find a way to get myself over there, and then I would construct enough work to make money. And I went there every year since like 1989.
Wow.
So it changed me, traveling.
Yeah.
It broadened my outlook. It gave me all these new sounds to hear, all these singers with wholly different approaches to music. I think that's one of the reasons I feel so strongly about going to different locations. And I just know what the earth has to do with making music. If you're in a certain place, the earth under you it's different. You get affected by it in ways you can understand and can't understand, but they penetrate. So as long as it's possible to do it, I'm gonna keep trying. This being online is saving us right now.
Totally.
And we all, of course, hope that we'll be meeting in the flesh and able to stand on the ground closer than 6 feet, and it will happen.
I was talking with Judy Carmichael yesterday. Do you know Judy? Yeah. So she said this is the first time in years that she's been home more than 10 days in a row. Yeah. So she's, because she travels around the world too, and she said the same thing. She loves to travel, and that's, that was part of why she was driven to do what she's done all these years.
Yeah. So we'll see how it is. For now, the online presence is a miracle.
Yeah. Is there anything that nobody's been asking questions? They've been making a few concepts, but comments. Before we end off, I didn't really set to 2 o'clock exactly, but it just feels comfortable to go from 12 to 2. Any questions that people have? We're listening. Apparently not. I don't know, but today's conversation between you and Ashley has really inspired me. I am gonna go into my room and practice, and I bought a looper. I'm trying to experiment with that. Jay Clayton said, I said, how do I practice with this? She said, I'll give you an assignment. Practice 5 minutes a day. And I was like, oh, I can do that. 5 minutes a day.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I can do that.
Jay, a possible goal. I want to say about Ashley that, I mean, speaking of the world, what an amazing traveler. How she is in the body she's in with Africa inside there, so strong.
Yeah.
And she followed it.
Yeah.
Some people might feel that, but not figure out how to actualize it. I am in awe of the way she follows her heart and follows her body. Beautiful. And I wish her all the best in her new album project, which I know has got to be delayed like everything else, but it's going to happen. She's got a commitment that's as fiery as her red hair.
Absolutely. That's why we call her the diva.
Yeah.
Because she's like, yeah, she owns it. She's going to do it. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, yeah, it's very joyful. We've, on a few of my recordings, the Fish to Birds has sung on a few of my recordings. There's a really cool version of a Benny Maupin tune called Message to Prez that was on my Jazz Chamber Orchestra record. And it's probably my favorite song on the record. And so what happened was there was a Benny Maupin tune, which was quite simple as far as the head went, and very groovy, very Fish to Birds like, So we got Fish to Birds together, and we did our Fish to Birds creation thing in the studio. And then Bevan Manson, who's just a genius writer and arranger, he took what we did and wrote. He has a foot in classical and jazz. And so he took what we did and he made 3 movements out of it and arranged it for orchestra, for the small chamber orchestra. And then we had Benny Maupin play through it. And it was really incredible. But I have to say, some of my favorite stuff was when I heard Ashley's beautiful, angelic almost tone rising out of the mix. It was really nice. Yeah.
I noticed that recording on your the post you've been sending me.
Yeah.
So I will listen to that this afternoon.
Message to Prez.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. Well, thank you. Are you going back to the farming right this minute?
Well, it's raining today.
Oh, okay.
So right now we're processing turmeric. We sell turmeric powder and turmeric root. We sell a white tea, and
do you make the powder?
We do.
Oh, I'm curious. How do you do that? Do you have machines that crush it, or?
You get it out of the ground as a root. You clean it because of all the dirt in the little crevices, and then you cut it into small pieces and dry it and dehydrate it, and then process it in a big, strong commercial grinder that doesn't heat up, so you don't lose any of the medicinal quality of the turmeric. This turmeric this year is like, woo!
Wow.
So can I give you a couple of websites?
Yes, and okay, so go ahead.
The farm website is Leo Nani Farms. That's the beautiful singing farm. That's what it means. Leo, Leo, Nani, Nani, Farms. So on there you can see the farm and you can see the products we have for sale.
Oh, cool.
And then my music website is rhiannonmusic.com.
Okay. And are they connected at all?
They are.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. We live by our websites, huh?
We do. Yeah, I mean, that's a way that we can get out who we are. I always, in all these different series that I curate, and I'm always, PRing, like some of the greatest players have no website at all, not even one Wix page,
Yeah.
And I'm always like, what are you guys kidding? You come on, you know, we have to have one place for people to go to, you know. So is there other, those are the websites, right?
Those are the websites. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you're really right about that. I think a lot of musicians, like side people who play with a lot of people and are extraordinary, they don't have their own website.
Yeah, I know.
And it can be hard to find them.
Yeah. Oh, Karen said, that's so weird. At the exact moment she mentioned turmeric, I was opening my new package from Amazon. Wow. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a very important time for turmeric. It's an antibiotic.
Yeah.
Which we're needing. It's very strengthening for everybody, and it's of course really good for the joints and lots of other medicinal qualities.
Curious, how much I take turmeric, but how much turmeric do you take?
Well, we sprinkle it on things. We slice it up. So we use the root and the powder.
Yeah.
I think several times a day.
Okay, but you don't take pills. You just use the free powder and.
No, because you know the Indians who started it, I think that's where it came from first. Putting it in curries, the way to make it the most effective is if it has a little black pepper and oil in combination with the turmeric. That activates the curcumin in the turmeric.
Okay. Black
so
pepper
if you just
and oil.
take capsules of it, if it's just the turmeric, it's not going to be as potent as.
Oh.
Which is why the Indians would use it in curry.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, I kind of knew that, but I didn't retain that. So that's good to know.
Just a second.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys take turmeric. Karen obviously does. Yep. Oh, you open it. Oh, it has pepper in it also. Whoa. So Karen buys some that she mixes it with her tea, but it has pepper also.
So this is the turmeric this is the powder.
Yeah.
You see how golden it is.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So I love being on the farm because I feel like food and music. Come on.
Totally.
That's life.
Totally.
So when people come here and study, we feed them lunch every day with a lot of local food and organic stuff that we grow and we get from other farmers. I feel like it further activates the music.
Yeah.
Not in any really just esoteric way, but really literally.
Yeah.
They just get more cracked open from it.
Okay, one of these days, I promise you, I've thought about it for a long time, but one of these days I am coming to your farm and going to join in on a workshop.
You come on any way you want to come on.
Okay.
Workshop, no workshop, just come on over. It's on the way to Japan.
Okay.
Peter Eldridge is coming in the fall. We were supposed to be doing the workshop next week, but we postponed until November.
Yeah.
So that's going to be beautiful because he's such a songwriter.
Yeah.
So we're going to put songwriting and improvisation together.
I am going to Japan in November.
Oh.
When in November, do you know?
I think it's the first week of November.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying. First week of November.
You go to Japan every year, huh?
I do, and I was supposed to go April 15th through May 7th because I like to go to Hiroshima, Osaka, and Tokyo. So I was going to do a week in each place, which is a lot for being on the road, but it's worth it to me to do it that way, you know.
And you're in cherry blossom time then.
Yeah, but not November. I try and stay away these days from November, but I was talking to people over there, and I probably will go to November just because it's colder. And my friend in Hiroshima, you know, has the old style house where if you want to be warm, you go into the living room and you sit down at the table on the floor and you get covered by the heating blanket. And that's about the warmth of it, you know. So, you know, I was like, oh God.
Yeah. Hot springs.
Well, yeah. the hot springs and the saunas and everything. That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only been there once. I went with a dancer friend, a Japanese dancer friend who lives here in Hawaii, and she took us up into the mountains to some of the Shinto temples and Buddhist temples, and some of the houses were really chilly.
Yeah.
So we would go. We spent a lot of time in hot springs.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And some of the springs are really beautiful. I've been going since 80, when, I don't know, 89. I don't know. I've been going since the 80s. And
Nice.
yeah, and I've been on tour through a lot of places. Probably a lot of Japanese people haven't been, just like I haven't been to a lot of places in America. But yeah, and I've been to these really beautiful, just one will remain in my mind forever. This beautiful, I guess it was a spa in the mountains that was built exquisitely, and exquisite hot springs, and the food was, everything was beautiful. I'll never forget that one. Oh, God.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, traveling. It's precious. Very, very precious.
It's really nice. I hope I put out that for everybody that everybody's being calm and respectful and safe, and helping each other. I know there's a lot of great videos online now. Facebook Live, I saw Tuck and Patty did a live
nice.
yesterday that was so beautiful. Wow.
Was it like a concert?
Yeah, but in their living room.
Oh, so
and
cute.
she was talking. They were both so sweet. Actually, she reminded me of Kate McGarry, how she spoke. It was really interesting. And anyway, and then Cecile McLaurin Salvant, like 2 days before, in her, whatever it was, living room with her pianist.
I saw that, but I haven't been able to find it yet. I got to go look at that. I thought that was beautiful.
She did 3 hours.
Wow.
And she was just pulling songs up out, because she has a really interesting repertoire. She sings in French, and she was classically trained, and she came from Broadway, and then of course she has the whole jazz. So it was really great, and the pianist was excellent. He has an odd name. I really apologize for not remembering his name. It's odd, but he's her pianist who plays with her.
Where was she? Do you know where she was when she did that concert?
I think in New York, like at home, Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's really it's the saving grace. The music can be such comfort. So yeah, I better get to my planning, get my contribution in there. The thing is, I like to do it with other people.
I know.
So I'm a little like, I don't want to do it all alone.
I know. Josh Nelson said that to me. He said, I'm kind of going through withdrawal, not playing with anybody, because he's really busy. Yes. And
that part's tough. I went through a period where I thought I should solo improvise so I could really practice
you
my
should.
improvisation. But it made me very
sad.
Nervous.
Oh.
It made me very nervous. And I realized that it didn't make me as nearly as happy as singing with other people.
Oh.
So I surrender. That's what I like.
Well, you should watch Kate's, and that will inspire you, because she was just doing it herself in her room, in her big, open, beautiful room. So that will inspire you. Also, if you look on, I will share this on your page, or if I can't on your page, I'll send it as a message. But if you get to look at the comments, Craig Cochran, who knows everything, the name of Cecile's piano player is Sullivan Fortner.
Oh, so he just let you know.
Sullivan Fortner. And he also sent the link for the concert, for their concert.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so, and if you can't for some reason see the comments, just tell me and I'll send it to you.
So Kate was singing without Keith?
Kate Richards Geller. Yeah, she was just singing.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
Are you talking about Evie or?
No, I was talking about Kate Richards. Oh, I've seen that one. I thought maybe Kate McGarry did one. I thought,
oh,
Keith?
Yeah, no. I don't know why, and I haven't found out yet because they jumped into their car, but apparently they're moving back to North Carolina.
Well, I think that may be temporary.
Okay.
I know that they can't afford to have the two places. So
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because I messaged her like 2 days ago and she said, gotta go, we're getting in the car. I'm like, what? So
yeah, well, yeah, it's all up for grabs right now. Stay steady, everyone. Stay steady. This will pass. This will pass. Just say our prayers for all the people who are sick and all the health workers, and just stay safe.
Definitely the health workers. I heard something. I don't know how good it's going to work, but every Sunday at 8 o'clock, open your window and shout or make some noise for the health workers.
They're doing that. They're doing that in Paris. I heard from somebody. They all open their windows in Paris and they clap. They applaud for the health workers there.
Oh God, I'm wow. I'm impressed with the health workers. I mean, wow. Yeah.
Well, thank you for this, Cathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhiannon. I'm going to look at you in the face and now I can see you a lot better. See, here I am. It's nice to see your face. Really nice.
Yeah, you too.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the lovely Rhiannon. Thank you, Ashley Maher for doing the first hour. It was really great. Thanks, guys, for showing up. I feel like people are enjoying these. Oh, and just to tell you, tomorrow, for those of you interested, excuse me, I have a chronic cough. This is not anything. Those of you who know me know I've had this cough for about 20 years. But anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, I keep trying to find the right diet and the right doctor and the right everything. Anyway, tomorrow I have a friend of mine, Dennis Dreeth, who is really knowledgeable in music licensing and all things related. Spotify and on and on and on. How do you make money? How do you follow your money in this time period? So I would, if you're at all interested in that, I would highly suggest coming on and listening. You can ask questions. I mean, it's really a great opportunity. I was actually thinking of having a workshop with him before this whole virus thing started, and because, I mean, people want to know about that. It's really interesting information. And then Wednesday, Josh Nelson will be on.
Great, say hi.
Yeah. And Thursday, I'm going to Keith Taylor. Terry.
Yeah.
For some reason, Terry leaves my head. Keith Terry, I'm going to his dance class at 12, which I'm excited about. And then Friday, Larry Kuntz. And we're going to have Michelle Weir and Mark Winkler. And then if I keep going, I mean, that's the problem. I know too many people.
You know a lot of people. You are right in the center of things. Thank you for that, Cathy.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's see. Just Cecily says, sending love and blessings to you all, especially Cathy, Rhiannon, Ashley. Thank you. You are goddesses all. Yay. Okay, and on that note, that's a perfect ending. Goodbye, Rhiannon. I love you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good day in Hawaii, in beautiful Hawaii. Bye, guys.